Welcome to Your Real Talk, the podcast where we take the mystery out of real estate. I'm your host, Luna Petty, your friendly neighborhood mortgage broker and real estate expert, and your straight talking guide to the real on the real estate market. So, whether you're a first time home buyer, whether you're a seasoned investor, whether you're in the real estate profession, or you're just curious about the real estate market, we have something here for you. We not only talk to industry experts about their insights, but we also give you real tips to help you succeed in the real estate market. So, let's get started with Your Real Talk with my guest, Vikram Deol. Thank you for coming to the podcast and giving us your time this morning. How are things going in your world?
I'm already 7 hours into my day. I wish it was still the morning over here. I live in South America, so we're East Coast time right now. So things are wonderful. Just getting my second cup of coffee in and just rocking with you.
All right, I love it. I love it. I'm on my first one, so I'm still a little jittery, but a little behind. But
I'll speed up for you. Don't you worry.
I appreciate that. So, give us some background about what you do in the real estate sector as a real estate coach and how you differ from all the other real estate coaches out there, because there's a bunch of them.
Yeah. So good question. I'll give you a little background first of how I got into where I'm at now, because I think that's going to give people a scope of who I am and where I've been and why we are maybe different, maybe we're not. I don't know. It's up to the listener to decide, right? So
Absolutely.
first off, you know, fourth grade jogathon record breaker, taught people that uh everybody's selling the same candy bars, everybody's selling the same, like, hey, we want to raise money. I locked people into a bigger goal, right? So I showed them that I was trying to help the school build I think it was a computer center back in the day,
Mhm.
and we needed to raise, I don't know, let's call it $30,000. And I wanted to raise half of it. And they're like, why do you want to do it? Really, I just wanted a Sega Genesis for myself, and my dad
Okay.
wouldn't buy me one. But guess what was the number one prize for the jogathon? It was a Sega Genesis, which my brother eventually beat me up and took it. And I still never got a Sega Genesis anyways. But it was learning at a young age that if you help people see that they're a part of something bigger, then they'll want to work with you. They'll want to help you. They'll want to give more to your cause. I didn't know it obviously in
Okay.
fourth grade. I was trying to get a Sega Genesis. Fast forward, sold a lot of Cutco knives. 18, got into the management. I was a 18-year-old, what do they call it, branch manager, and I got the best territory in the entire Los Angeles division.
Okay.
And the reason they gave me the best territory wasn't just because I had the most sales. It was because I had the most sales and I put in the most effort to the training.
Mm.
And they knew that because I put more effort than everybody else, right? I was 18, I was 17 when I was going through management training for my first time in my life. They knew that this young kid was hungry, but they also knew that the hunger with the skills, the passion, right? There was a little chip on my shoulder, like I wanted to prove to the world. I was ranked as the biggest loser in the school by Heidi's mom, and she's like, "This kid's gonna amount to nothing." And I'm like, "F you! I'm gonna be a badass in life." And so I had a chip on my shoulder, and a lot of entrepreneurs don't admit it, but we got chips on our shoulders. We want to prove something to someone, which is why we're crazy enough to go out in the world and try to do something out there. So we recruited 47. I recruited 47 people that summer, and we had the second highest productivity out of all of the company. And everybody, the average age of the branch managers were like 22, 23-year-old college graduates. I was
Mhm.
an 18-year-old freshman. I learned something then and there. I learned that if you give people a lot of attention, you give them a lot of praise, you give them a lot of feedback, and you give them great training, they will excel in things that they're not confident and comfortable in. Because sales is something that pushes our comfort zone. It's something that makes us, every sales call, we all have a little jitter in our stomach. We don't want to talk about it, but every time we get on a new sales call, every time we get on the podcast, right? Like, I don't know how many took. Sometimes when I do my podcast, it takes us 3 takes to get the intro out, right? Because we have that little nervous jitter. We want to be perfect, but there is no effing perfect. There's just
Yeah.
you falling back on your training and then connecting with people from a heart. So if you're heart centered and you actually put your hand on your heart, I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve. It's not about me. It's not about me. It's here for service. I'm here for service. Your brain will fall into your heart and your heart will go into your brain. And you will actually start to realize, like, I have nothing to be nervous about because I am going to do the best that I can and I'm going to deliver from the heart. And when you deliver from the heart, everything you say is perfect because you get into a flow state and a meditative state.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, when people say, what makes you different? I don't know. We sold $250 million in 5 years. That probably stands us out a little bit. We didn't work a sphere because I didn't have a sphere. So it was all from people I didn't know. When people say stupid, can I swear on this, Luna?
Yes, you can.
Oh, thank gosh.
This is how we keep it real. No censorship.
So when people say dumb shit, like, I only work with my sphere. Well, if you've been in business for 20 years, that makes sense. But if you've been in business for 12 months, that's dumb because your sphere is probably not big enough to support your dreams of doing 20 to 30 to 40 transactions.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't know enough people that are looking to buy or sell every year to do what their goals accomplish. So, like,
Right.
ninja selling, great tactics, amazing. I don't know very many ninja agents that don't have other lead sources. There's a lot of really good stuff in there, though, right?
Yeah.
You still need to go out there. We were talking to somebody yesterday. She's had a big name brand, right? Last name ends in Ferry, coach, for 4 years. She closed 5 deals last year. 5 deals. You've been in coaching for 4 years with the same company, and your numbers are continuously going down month after month, year after year. And that's acceptable to you. Like, you should stop. And this is like $1,200 a month in training. Like, you should stop. But they think that's where they need to be because that's what is industry promotes, because the industry promotes. So when you come from a place of like understanding knowledge, I've been super wealthy, not super wealthy, but yeah, I've had 800 grand in the bank before, no payments, Land Rover, right? Living good,
Mm-hmm.
to owing $1 million. So I've been on both sides of the equation. And it's not like 20 years ago when I owed $1 million. It was like 4 years ago. And I've had to pull myself back out. So I know what it's like to be on both sides of the equation. I've been a realtor, grew a team, was very successful, high profit. We weren't one of those teams that showed 50 million and 1.6 in GCI, but then the net was negative 22,000.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very profitable organization. And what we learned was that when you come from the heart and you understand human behavior and you understand humans, like what I learned in 4th grade, is that people actually want to work with you. And then you back that up with a killer badass sales process where you understand that there's an ultimate appointment booking formula, there's a listing presentation and a buyer presentation. When you learn how to do those things, you know how to book appointments, you know how to create conversations that convert into authentic leads, you know how to build raving fans, you build a process that allows people to go from, I'm just looking. Yeah, of course you're just looking. I mean, Luna, doesn't everybody start their home search just looking? And they
Absolutely.
go, of course. So what are you looking for? Well, we're looking for this. And what's got you looking for that? And what would be different about being here versus where you're currently at? And how long have you been thinking about being in this current, getting out of your current situation? Okay, so if you guys were in a home like that, is there any differences in your lifestyle that you would be looking into? How so? Oh, so the neighbor's kids smoke a lot of pot and your kids are now 11 and 13 and they're asking what the kids are doing all day long? Well, that's not that big of a deal. I smoked a lot of pot growing up too. I mean, it turned out okay. Why don't you want your kids around a bunch of pot smokers? And they're going to tell you now the whole reason why.
Yeah.
And now you have what's called an overarching goal. So we had a trust-based opener. We have an overarching goal. We probed and clarified. Now I can use the game plan frame. I can book in an appointment. And now I'm sitting down in front of you. And instead of me sending, and I know you're not going to like this, but I don't trust loan officers, Luna, to do my job because I'm the
Okay.
realtor. I am the general practitioner doctor. The loan officer is a specialist. The inspector is a specialist. You guys are surgeons. You are very specific, but I am the general practitioner. I need to make sure that I don't send Luna to the wrong doctor. So how do I send a person I've never met and talked to? How do I send them to Luna versus sending them to Chris? I don't know what they need.
Right.
And the other thing is like, I don't trust loan officers to actually do what they're supposed to do because they're salespeople. So they might drop the ball on you. And now I've made that referral before sitting down with you. And because I made the referral before I sat down with you, you drop the ball. Now I look like a schmuck. And that person goes, uses John up the street instead of using me. So did I answer any of your questions about how we're different?
You went there a bit, yeah. So, I mean, I get you're very much of that no bullshitter, like, hey, I'm gonna tell you what it is, I'm gonna tell you straight up. And I appreciate that because I'm the same way with my clients and with the people that I've had to train along the years. So, being in that mindset, what has changed over the time as a coach? How has your approach changed, if it has, like for 2025 versus say 2020? When things were kind of you just had to sit by the phone and you were gonna get a deal.
Nothing's changed. We've been saying the same exact thing. No, there's tweaks to the process, obviously, right? As we get better, as markets shift, right? Last year there was a lot of concern around the elections.
Right.
So we built some frameworks around elections. Elections are over. Now there's worries about, is that person in office the right person, right? Fear. But fear is fear. So when you understand that you're reframing a fear-based concern, you're just using different language with certain parts of the pop. Some people are super happy. Some people are super nervous, right? You just have to learn that a fear-based concern is a fear-based concern. When somebody says interest rates, it's the same exact concern as if somebody says prices are too high. It's about the monthly payment. Their concern is that they're not going to be able to afford the house they want because of the monthly payment. So if we can get them over that, when somebody says timing, why is there a timing? Timing could be logistical. Are you in a lease? Are you waiting for your children to get out of school? Are you waiting for a family member that's living with you that's on hospice to pass away? What does the time mean? So when people say we're not in a rush, well, of course you're not, Luna. You're buying a freaking house. Oh, duh, it's a big purchase. Like we just never studied how we buy. Like I'm looking at at a new iPad. Now I have two iPads in my office, but they're older, right? So like I'm looking at an iPad and I'm like, how often do I use the iPad and how slow is it? And is it really the speed or is it more of the fact that the battery dies all the time? Well, if I have these two iPads, can I sell them since I live here in South America? Can I sell them for even a decent amount or do I need to go back to the US to try to sell it? When do I go to the US to sell it? Okay, should I buy that? If I buy an iPad here in Colombia, it's going to cost me 20% more. So when am I going to be back in the States? Okay, I'm going to be back in the States here, right? Like all of this stuff, I've been thinking about buying this iPad for 3.5 months. I've been thinking about putting a $700 backdrop in this office that we're in, so it's not a gray wall, for 65 days before I finally said, okay, why am I even having this? Why am I even debating this conversation?
Yeah.
And it wasn't because of the money. It was because I didn't know what I actually wanted on the backdrop. And the interior designer that we hired here, oops, I dropped the light. The interior designer that we hired here, she didn't ask me the questions about, well, what are you actually trying to build? She's just trying to fulfill, right, what she thinks I want. So she's like, well, you wanted this, here's this. And I'm like, I don't know. She's like, well, let me show you this one. And she's showing me the same options because she doesn't understand what I'm trying to do. And I said, well, why don't you show me some things you've done? And she's like, well, what are you looking for? I'm like, oh, forget it. It's too much work trying to deal with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I was like, if I knew what I was looking for, that's why I asked you for some ideas. Like find some inspiration. We've sat down, we've talked, you've met me, you see how I dress, my style, my personality. I showed you my old office. It's full of flowers and motivational stuff. You're the designer. Design me something. She's
Yeah.
like, well, what would you like? What colors? What is this? I'm like, I'm not a designer. That's your job. So she doesn't understand, like, she never got deep enough with me. And that's the problem with most people is they never go deep.
Yeah, with their clients to really get to know them. They want to stay on the surface on that sales part of things, and what kind of
And
house, how many bedrooms, how many baths, da, 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 and go into that list of what do you need and not why are you purchasing and why do you think now is a good time to purchase?
and the
What's
problem is that
motivating you?
they're trying to ask the right questions. They're trying to gather the right information, but the way they ask their questions creates a tremendous amount of sales pressure.
Yeah.
And the funniest thing is like, Luna, if you talk to people and they're like, I'm not salesy, and I'm like, hit me with your shit. And it's like all qualifying questions. It's just a slew of qualifying. There is not one emotional question in there. It is just like an interrogation room. Okay, so
Yeah.
what are you looking for? What's your down payment? How much are you looking to pay? Bop, bop, bop. Okay, got it. Cool. I'm going to send you over the agreement. Once you sign that, I'm going to send you the next step. Then you're going to need to fill out this form. Like, yo, you just hit me with a bunch of work.
Yeah.
What I want to know is, who are you as a human being? So most people are trying to be more interesting than interested.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what we teach in the ultimate appointment booking formula is how to get what's called an overarching goal, and then take that goal and go 3 layers deeper to get the real pain that they're trying to solve and get away from. There's a
Yeah.
pain, like, and it's not the obvious answer. It's typically the third or fourth answer that they're not really wanting to share because they haven't really thought about it.
Themselves. Absolutely.
But like, if you talk to somebody and they say they want more space, what do most people think? What do most agents say? Yeah, Luna, I want a bigger
Oh,
home.
okay, yeah. How many bedrooms? How many baths? What kind of
Uh,
square foot were
four
you thinking
bedrooms,
of?
3 bathrooms.
Right. As opposed to why do you need the more space? Well, how would that
Yeah,
benefit your life to have more space?
right. What would having that extra space do for you that you can't do now? So what
Yeah.
we want to do is we want to future pace them, and we want to bring them into a present reality and a future reality at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So what can I do now? Well, right now I can't have dinner parties. Right now, my kids don't have a bedroom. Right now, my kids don't have a bedroom, and we're in the wrong school district. Okay. My kids don't have a bedroom. We're in the wrong school district, and they're fighting. My kids don't have a bedroom. We're in the wrong school district. They're fighting. And I work from home, and my wife now works from home. My kids work from my kids are fighting. They don't have their own bedrooms. We all work from home. We're fighting. We're arguing now because everybody's loud. And so now my children are going to the neighbor's house all day long, and they don't want to be home to spend time with us. My children don't want to spend time with us, and they're 13 and 14 years old, which means I only have them left for 3 or 4 years. And when they do come home, they're like, F you, mom and dad, we don't want to talk to you. And they go lock themselves in the room. Our kids lock themselves in the room, which means the next 3 to 4 years, which are the most influential years of their life, we have no influence over them. Why
Mm-hmm.
is that important, Luna? Because they're being influenced by people we don't want them to be influenced with. Okay, so it sounds like we're not in a rush to move. Actually, when you say it like that, we need to be out of this house tomorrow, because people become
Right.
comfortable in their situation, and they
Mm-hmm.
become comfortable living in that tight, crammed fight. And they're the nervous system. I did a training on this yesterday. What happens is the nervous system, because it's in fight or flight consistently, it
Mm-hmm.
becomes used to fighting, and we don't know how to calm the nervous system down. And if the nervous system's in fight or flight, do you make good or bad decisions?
You're usually making bad decisions because they're fear-based.
And when you're in a fear-based situation and we're making decisions out of emotion instead of out of logic, we tend to make either no decision or a poor decision. Here, they're making a poor decision because how many years do we have left to influence the children? Not enough. So the kids are mad, they're upset, right? Or maybe you hit somebody with that same thing and it's like, why would you want to be there? And it's like, well, because when we grew up, we had the same exact situation. And I made a promise to myself I wasn't going to put my kids through this. And I'm doing exactly that. And why are you doing that? Because I don't want to pay the extra $1,000 a month. So what's more important, Luna, the extra $1,000 a month that I don't control and you don't control, are being a man and woman of your word and
Mm-hmm.
doing what you said you would never do to your children. Now you're doing it. What's more important? I never thought of it like that, Vikram. Yeah, man. Like, dude, I'm around. I'm going to collect my commission one way or the other. But how are
Right.
you going to live your life in authenticity? And they're like, did you just hit me with a therapy session? I'm like, yeah, that's free. The second one's going to cost you an extra 6%. And they're like, like, how do you do that? Like, none of the other agents, we're on 11 drips. We meet 18 agents a month at open houses. We've been looking for houses for a year and a half. This problem's been going on for 3 years. Not a single person has mentioned any of that to us. And I didn't even remember that I said I would never be that kind of a father. And yet here I am. It's like,
Yeah.
yes, if you want to, why don't you just continue doing that? Well, no, no, we need to buy a house. Okay, so should we sit down and come up with the game plan then? Absolutely, we should sit down and come up with a game plan. Do you
Right,
think I
right.
need? Do you think I need now? I know I need to in this new age, but do you think back in the day I needed to make them sign a buyer agency agreement with me so that they didn't go use another agent?
Yeah, no, not likely because now we have a relationship. I'm
Like,
not your agent. We have a relationship now.
these people have told me more than they told their wife. Their
Yeah,
wife doesn't know these secrets. And I
yeah.
had a 17-minute conversation on the phone with somebody I never met, and they're telling me their life aspirations. And it's just because I slowed down enough to care about their true goals. And then people say, oh, well, Vic's got the better Zillow leads. Y'all,
Okay, let's talk about leads real quick. Let's back up, Vikram, because we're really talking about interaction with client. But I know, and based on your model, you also talk about ways to get leads or ways to pull clients in. And like you said, it's not all about only this is your sphere and you got to, drill your sphere to death. You
I
really
never had a
lean
sphere.
on, yeah, you
I've
go in
never,
on, hey, there's other
I've never
places to
sold.
do.
Yeah, I've never sold Sphere in my life after 17 years old. So I never had a Sphere.
What
I've
does that
always
look
moved
like?
around.
What are you coaching on? I know you coach a lot about open houses and doing them differently. So what does that look like when you're coaching your clients on how to get the leads in the first place? How do you get the people so that you even have something to say? You have a conversation to have if you're not buying leads all the time.
Well, we spend a ton of money on our company. We spend probably 15 to $20,000 here at Sheridan buying leads every month. So leads definitely work because there's leads and branding. So I think first, before we talk about, spending money, let's understand what we're doing. When you're out there marketing, it's different than when you're branding. Social media is brand. Marketing is a direct response where you're spending money, you're looking for people to take an action. Now, you can do that in social media, right? You can get people to take an action, but what we're talking about is two separate things for a lot of agents. Your social media is to get brand presence,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's why Coca-Cola and Pepsi and Mercedes still advertise.
Right.
But their little banner on the right, which shows the C class that's on sale, that's marketing. Branding is, hey, look at my cool cars. Marketing is, we're having a sale on this one car. Come to the dealership and look at it. And
Yeah.
so when you're marketing, you're asking people to raise their hand. And so when people raise their hand, right, do you know what to say to them? And believe it or not, Luna, it's the same exact thing as what you'd say to somebody in your sphere. What's even making you ask me the question about real estate? When people say, how's the market? You go, well, let me tell you, the market's fabulous. It's the best fucking time to buy. Bullshit. It's fucking expensive to buy right now. You fucking nuts. It's the worst impossible time in the last 12 years for people to be thinking about buying. We're in unstable markets. We have high interest rates. We have low inventory. Prices have never been higher. Inflation is still fucked. We have now the threat of like multiple wars. People are fighting. People are, what are you smoking that you say it's the best? It's because you heard some talking piece on a stage say, well, tell them it's the best time to buy real estate now, and the second best time to buy real estate was 10 years ago. So what do you want to buy? That's dumb shit. If Luna comes up to me and says, hey, Vic, how's the market? I don't know. Luna, tell me, what are you thinking about? Why would you personally ask me that kind of a question? Well, we've been kicking around the idea of buying a home, but, we have some reservations. Reservations are fears, ladies and gentlemen. We have some reservations about X, Y, and Z. Well, yeah, you should have reservations about X, Y, and Z. But let's put those to the side because that's not what I control. Why would you guys even been thinking about like moving from your current home? What would be different about where you're looking or what you're looking at versus where you're currently at? See, people think just because you get a referral, they're going to work with you and they're ready to buy it. They're not. They're still scared, just like the person you never met. The only thing is they're a little bit easier to talk to because you know their name and they know yours. It's the same process. And so when you're talking to your sphere, like one of our clients, Molly, she's now one of our coaches. She goes, Vic, I picked up my biggest listing ever at a cocktail party. And I go, tell me more. She goes, I knew the guy in the corner. He knew me. I knew him. I'm part of a band. He comes to the bar. Everybody was approaching him like flies on shit. And I go, yeah, that's what realtors do. Hey, I heard you want to sell. Hey, I heard you want to sell. Here's my card. Here's my card. Here's my card. And she goes, I just stood there sipping my sip. Every now and then he'd look over at me, waiting for me to come over. I just smiled and waved, acknowledged that he's there, and I kept on going with my life. She goes, and finally he approaches me. He says, hey, how come you're in real estate still, right? I go, yeah. How come you didn't come up to me? Well, you're busy. Why? She goes, and then I heard your head, my voice in your head, Vic. And she goes, and I heard Vic say, ask him why he came over here. Why did you come over to me? He's like, well, because you didn't come to me. Law of attraction. She pushed him away. He pulled himself in. It's a pulley system. She pulled him in. She didn't even think about him. She saw him, waved, and went back, having her drink, laughing, singing her songs, doing her thing. So the guy rolls over. He's like, hey, so, I've been thinking about selling my property at 123 Sheridan Street. And she goes, oh, I've heard some news. He goes, you know about that, eh? Well, you're kind of the richest man in town. So yeah, people talk. And he laughs. He goes, you're funny. She goes, 3 cocktails in. Don't think it's like this on Monday morning. He goes, he goes, uh, he goes, well, I've been thinking about selling. And she goes, why? It's an amazing property. You should keep it. And she pushed him away. And he goes immediately, well, that's the thing. It's an amazing property and we don't utilize it and blah, 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 blah. And I could do so. And he told her why he doesn't want the property. And she goes, well, that's crazy. Why don't you just go use it more? It's an awesome property. You're crazy not to just go out there and chill. And he goes, no, 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 no. And then he goes, hey, would you be interested in coming to take a look at it next week around your schedule? Not around my schedule, around your schedule. He's like, I will make myself available for you. And she goes, well, I could, but I guess, could you tell me a little bit more about like, what would you do afterwards? And he's like, you didn't just jump the gun? He's like, okay. So she goes over, takes a look at the property. He's like, all right, so where do I sign? She's like, well, I didn't bring any paperwork. He's like, you didn't bring the paperwork? She's like, well, no, like, I don't even know if I could help you. Like, I don't even know if you're realistic or not on pricing and terms and all this stuff. He's like, who are you? And she took down the biggest client that knew all of the top agents that
Yeah,
were
yeah.
chasing him. And that was somebody she knew. She knew he was selling. She knew she could make the phone call and have a conversation with him. She also knew she was going to see him at a party 4 days later. And so she was just like, Vic, I didn't expect to get it fully detached. She's like, but I just remembered what you told me. Come from service, not from sales. And don't be so needy. Like
Yeah.
every agent's so needy. We have clients that come to us and when they talk, they shake.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. I used to be that back in the day. Yeah.
it's because your
Cold
nervous
calling. You're
system
like,
is rocked. Well, no, they just having a conversation. I'm like, how much coffee did you drink today? They're like, none. I'm like, then why are your jitters in your voice? Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, do me a favor, close your eyes, take a couple deep breaths.
deep breath. Yep.
Now breathe into your heart and say, everything's gonna be just fine. Everything's gonna be just fine. Everything's gonna be everything's gonna be. I'm like, hey, wake up. I'm like, did you
Right.
just fall asleep on me? They're like, I'm so tired. I'm exhausted. Their
Yeah.
nervous system's on edge.
Yeah. They're built up. So being that you went there is exactly where I wanted to go is mindset. I feel like, I've seen a lot of new
We
agents and
never got to open houses.
yeah, I mean, I tried there, but hold up, mindset. So what is the biggest hurdle that you see as agents' mindsets, why they can't get out of their own way?
But like, I think mindset can mean different things to different folks, right? And I think mindset's a buzzword in the industry. And I think mindset's one of those things that we talk about that sounds great. And I'm not discounting that, Tony Robbins is like the number one mindset expert in the world. I studied with him for a year at like intense levels. I went to 17 programs with him, went deep. I think the more important question is it's not like what do we do for mindset? It's what do we do to reset the nervous system? Because like when we think about what we're trying to do, it's we're trying to reset our nervous system that is very nervous right now. For the last 6 years, 4 years, right? Whatever, post-COVID, COVID, right? Like the world just got rocked.
Yeah.
I can't make posts on Facebook now that have certain words in it, even if it's not anything to do with what the post thinks, just because it has the word in it, right? And I won't even say those words because then, we're going to limit things here. And so like people are on high edge, right?
Yeah.
The last 4 years, people couldn't, one side felt they couldn't say anything. Now this 4 years, there's another side that feels it. I was in Colombia at dinner and there was a couple sitting next to me, a lovely couple, and they were gay and they were fabulous. And we talked for 20 minutes. And I was telling him about this and he was telling me about that. And then his partner came over wearing a beautiful shirt. We were joking and we're having a blast. And then somehow or the other, they started talking about politics. And they said, we're going to lose our friends of 20 years because they voted for the party that we don't vote for. And I was looking at them and I'm like, y'all don't even know nothing about me. We
Yeah.
talked for 20 minutes. What if I said I voted for a different party? Now, all of a sudden, that negated our 20 minutes of beautiful conversation. You guys are awesome humans. And then it went from there to like visibly shaking to they went to shots. They brought up one person's name and it went down the drain that they were taking shots because of it. And I was like, Patrick, what happened, bro? Like,
Yeah.
where did my cool buddy go? Like, what the fudge happened? Like, you guys are like, they reminded me of my buddy Randy and Ernie from Seattle that I used to always go to like the best paella dinners at. And we
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
get drunk off of the best wine and have so much fun. And I'm like, yo, we were jamming. I think you guys are super cool. I was going to get their phone numbers because they live here. Cause I was like, oh my God, you guys are going to introduce me to my future
I
wife.
found some peoples. Yeah.
And then they were like, flew off the handle. They started to get drunk. And this is a retired neurologist. And I was like, holy shit. And it got me really thinking about the nervous system. And it got me thinking about how uneasy people are right now in the world.
So fragile.
And so when we're wound up tighter than, a constipated human and our sphincter is clenched all day long and our jaws are tight and our shoulders are tight and we're walking around like we're in a straitjacket, we make decisions out of scarcity. And when we make decisions out of scarcity, it's just like going back to the beginning of the conversation. We don't make the right decisions
Yeah.
because people are willing to give up their friends because they feel like it's a value change. And
Yeah.
they don't even want to have the conversation about what's going on. And so when we're at this level of break everywhere we go, everything's a breaking point instead of a conversation. We have to reset ourselves. And the way we reset ourselves is really simple. We do a couple of exercises and then the mindset just naturally becomes better. The first thing we do is we need to conquer our mind and body in the morning. So in the morning, when you wake up, I know you're going to have to go pee because we're all in our 40s. So go do your duty.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll challenge you on that because this morning I woke up 3:30, had to pee. Oh God, I got to go to the bathroom so bad. Oh, why did I drink that water at night? But I was in my comfortable bed. Like, okay, I should get up. And then somehow or the other, I checked my phone because I was mad at myself for not just getting up. I checked my phone. I saw a message and I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. I forgot I had to pee.
Yeah.
I forgot I had to pee. And then I'm like, oh, you know what? I wake up at 3:30 because I'm supposed to meditate. Let me put on a 15-minute meditation. So I put on the 15-minute meditation. I fell asleep till 6:45. and I didn't pee. And so the first thing is like, we think we have to do stuff because the body tells us that we should do it, but we're actually being controlled by the body and not the mind. We're reacting to what the body wants, and the body wants comfort. We need to, first thing in the morning, we need to take the comfort away from the body and make it uncomfortable. The easiest way to make your body uncomfortable is just sit in silence.
Thought you were going to say your ice bath. I was like, no.
Well, think of that. Your brain can handle it, your body can't. So your body's saying the pain of the ice is going to be more than the brain can handle. I'm not going to do it. You've already just given away your control and power to the body, and you've taken it away from the mind. Right now, you should say, I'm just not willing to do it, instead of like, I won't do it. I can't do it. Just, fuck that. I'm not willing to do it. That's a different statement than I can't, because you sure as hell can. Because let me tell you, if there was a kitten at the bottom of a river and you were the only one there, you would jump your ass in and save that dog or that cat. Or worse, a 3-year-old. All of a sudden, your can't goes to I must. So change your language to, I'm just not going to do it. Not that I can't do it. Yet you can cold call. I did it for years. Still do it. You can cold call. You don't like to do it and you don't want to do it, but it's not that you can't do it. Because if I put a gun to your head, you would start fucking dialing. So we change our language. So first thing in the morning is just sit down for 15 minutes in silence and reconnect your nervous system and tell your body, you're going to sit here and wrestle. And you start to wrestle with that body. The second thing you do is do something that physically challenges you. If you can walk 10 miles, your 10-mile walk isn't a challenge. That's comfort. Get out of your comfort zone, because you're telling your body that the mind is in control. And so you start to do these things. Like for me, it's the ice bath. The ice bath isn't for health. It's to control the mind. Like, it's cold as hell. It's 30 degrees now in there. It's got ice chunks, right? Started at 55, went to 42, went to 40. And then I was like, you know what? We're just going all the way. The difference of 8 degrees is so dramatic in the body that you physically have an adverse reaction in the morning to waking up and getting out of bed. It's why I don't get out of bed at 3 o'clock anymore, because I'm like, it is hard to do the ice bath. And so I am working to control we froze there. So I'm working to control the mind, which then controls the body, because the body doesn't tell me what we're going to do. You're uncomfortable, get used to it. The world is uncomfortable, get used to it. Right? So it's not about mindset. It's about the exercises you do to train the mind, so that the mind controls the body and not the body controlling the mind.
That makes sense. And I feel like there's not a lot of people who can master that. They look at it definitely in the opposite, the reverse way of that. Absolutely.
It's because we're coming from a place of fear. But
Yeah.
when you just realize, like, nothing hurts long term. Even if you get, like, one of our sales guys was in a horrendous motorcycle accident, knock on fake wood that I have here on this desk. He just had to get a lot of surgeries, but he's alive. He's kicking. He's grateful. He's got a bunch of scars. He's still like, dude, I can't wait to get on my motorcycle. I can't wait to go snowboarding. Right? Still the same guy, just got a couple battle wounds.
Yeah, yeah.
We can do whatever we choose to do. Right? But we choose to take the easy road because we're listening to the body and not the mind. The mind's like, yo, I got this. I am up for the challenge.
Yeah.
And you don't have to start. Here's the thing. You don't have to, like, we'll just use ice baths for an example because it scares the shit out of people. You don't have to start with your freezer with ice chunks in it. You could start at 65 degrees and then work your way down to 60 and then work your way to 55 and then work your way to 50 and then work your way into the 40s. You don't have to get to 32 and be a psychopath like I do. You can keep it at the 50s.
I get that.
The fact that you're conquering your mind every day, after 30 days, you're not the same person you were 30 days ago. You have fundamentally shifted. Your body's changed, your mind has changed, and your mindset is the byproduct of the exercises you do in the first hour of your morning.
Yeah. I used
And
to,
then
like when I started back working out, I used to have to tell myself mentally, okay, you can do anything for 15 seconds. 15 seconds, just do this for 15 seconds, and each rep of whatever movement I was doing, it was just that. 15 seconds, Luna, just get through it. And then I had to work up from there. So I definitely can understand that mindset. I think a lot of people can see more progress in their life if they just look at it,
it,
like start somewhere.
it's getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And in the world we live in, it's all Instapot, Insta coffee, Insta this,
For
Insta that.
real. For
And
real.
when we realize that there's nothing instant about the quality of life that we want, you can get an Insta coffee, but you can't have an instantly awesome life. It's
Hello.
about the person you become every single day by doing these small things. Let me tell you guys, an ice bath for 1 to 3 minutes is nothing. It's 1 to 3 minutes. You get on the shitter and you scroll TikTok for 35 minutes and get a hemorrhoid. And so, like, don't tell me you don't have an extra 1 or 2 or 3 minutes to do something challenging. You
Yeah.
spent, like, I can look at your phones. You got 87 minutes a day on Instagram. You telling me you can't spend 15 or 10 of those minutes just working on controlling the mind into silence? And all of the things that typically come up when you're battling your brain, they're just the limiting beliefs that your brain and body want to let go of. Your body is storing all of that, which is why you're so tense. The market, the market, the market, the leads, the interest rates, right? Even
Yeah.
people who are doing super well, let me tell you, their nervous systems are shot. Their adrenals are depleted and they're doing well and you wouldn't know it.
Mhm.
A lot of people are just riding that line of like one little thing and they blow up. It's because
Yeah.
we don't take time to do some hard stuff to train the mind to work on what we call mindset. Because
Yeah. Yeah.
mindset comes by doing hard stuff. And the more hard stuff you do, the more you're like, oh, well, that's not that big of a deal.
You build that
Oh,
strength up like any other muscle.
yeah. So it's just a
Yeah.
muscle and you got to work it. And most people don't because
Yeah.
it's a few minutes of being uncomfortable every day.
Yeah. Vikram, I feel like I can talk to you for hours.
Probably I talk a lot.
And I got questions and questions, but I'm running out of time. I want to
Same
know for
here.
agents who want to level up on their sales, what they're working with, how can they connect with you? What's the best way for them to get started to level up with you and your team?
You can, I'll give you a free link to join us in school. So I'll pop you a free gift. You can join us inside of my free school community. I have a lot of trainings. We have a lot of pop-up classes that we offer. Um, we give a lot of free things away, like not crappy tools like trying to get your information, but like actually really great training that we give to our private clients. We give that to you for free, just to get you to like see that there's a different way. And then Instagram coach Vikram Deol, VIKRAMDEOL. Send me a message, say you saw me on the Luna Petty show, and we'll jam.
All right, sounds good. Thanks again. I think I need a follow up to this because again, I have so many angles I can go with this. Like, let's talk about we didn't even get to your open house strategy. We didn't but for now, I'm gonna let you go. I appreciate your time. I know you're obviously very busy, very
No,
impactful
no,
to all the
no.
agents you work with, and I thank you so very much for giving me your time.
Appreciate you. I hope you guys got some value out of it.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sure there's all kinds of nuggets in here. Yeah, if you didn't get any value out of this, you need to get into another industry. This isn't for you. This isn't for you. I've talked to too many coaches, too many agents, and I know the quality from the salespeople. And yeah, you're a no bullshit. And I
I
appreciate that.
appreciate you.
My pleasure. Take care.